Hello and welcome to Church Around the Corner. I'm so glad that you could join us today. I'm Rip Kenley. I'm the general manager here at CTN Middle Georgia. Can't wait to get into the Word with you today as we discuss more about Joshua, one of my favorite characters in the Bible. But first, we want to mention our prayer request line. We always like to start with that. 478-474-3986 for your prayer requests or your praise reports. We'd love to have you call in and let us know what's going on in your life, because we believe in God, therefore we believe in prayer. And so we want to make a contact with you. We want to join with you to touch the Father on your behalf. So call your prayer requests in, call your praise reports in. You can also email WGNM@ctnonline.com. And we read those on the air on the Open Window program, which we're always very excited about as well. Also, I wanted to give you just a quick moment to talk about supporting CTN Middle Georgia. You know, we are a nonprofit ministry, and we need support, just general support. We've raised funds for new wineskins and other things, but we need support to keep this station on the air and here available to partner with other local ministries. That's what we do. It kind of sets us apart from other Christian networks, is the fact that we have local stations with people that, staffed around the country, and we believe in local television ministry. So if you would like to partner with that, ask the Lord what he would have you do. And then the single best way is to go to WGNM.com. And you can see the donate or give button right there. And that'll be a secure way for you to give. You can give a one-time gift or a recurring gift. You can also send a check or money order to CTN Middle Georgia. That's a little new, by the way. CTN Middle Georgia. And make your checks out to CTN Middle Georgia. Box 364, 5962 Zebulon Road, Macon, Georgia, 31210. We just need, we want to make sure you have the opportunity to give. That's all that's about. Also, I want to remind you, too, about podcasting or about doing your own Church Around the Corner. If you're interested in either one of those, if you have a ministry and you want to talk to somebody about that, I want you to email me. I'm going to give you my email address. It's ripk, that's RIPK, @ctnonline.com. If you're interested in podcasting, we've got some really great studio rental rates so you can do a podcast. We can kind of help guide you on how to do all of that. Also, if you want to host this program, if you have a ministry or a church and you want to just kind of get your feet wet in television production, I want you to email me, ripk@ctnonline.com. Let's get into words, shall we? We were talking last time that I spoke. We were talking about Joshua and how the Lord told him several times to have strength and courage. I will go with you. And every time he said that you were to have strength and courage, he said, I'd be with you, right? And so we made the connection there that the presence of God helps foster strength and courage. And so we're going to get into some more of that today, continuing on, because there's some more stuff about that that's really, really cool that we really, really like. So Joshua not only was encouraged by the Lord to have strength and courage, but he was encouraged by the people, his new people. He was elevated as the leader, and they wanted him to be strong and courageous and pursue the presence of the Lord. Being the successor means sometimes you continue what was being done, and sometimes you have to be willing to do what is different. And both of those take strength and courage. Now, Joshua 1:10 through 18 is what we're referencing, and we're going to be kind of going through all of that. Verses 10 and 11 says, So Joshua ordered the officers of the people, go through the camp and tell the people, Get your provisions ready. 3 days from now, you will cross the Jordan here to go in and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving as your own." Joshua led them prophetically. He told them what was going to happen. 3 days from now, you will cross the Jordan. Now, in verses 12 through 15, it goes on to say this: "But to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, Joshua said, 'Remember the command that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you after he said, "The Lord your God will give you rest by giving you this land. Your wives, your children, and your livestock may stay in the land that Moses gave you east of the Jordan. But all your fighting men ready for battle must cross over ahead of your fellow Israelites. You are to help them until the Lord gives them rest, as he has done for you, and until they too have taken possession of the land the Lord your God is giving them. After that, you may go back and occupy your own land, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you east of the Jordan toward the sunrise." Now, what you're seeing here is that Joshua was saying, okay, this is what was said, so we're going to continue what Moses said. We're not changing anything in that regard. The deal that he made with you is still going to be the deal that that Joshua is going to keep. But he also held certain tribes, the tribes that were set up to be east of the Jordan River. Those were still, they weren't, there was no one to really clear out of those areas. But so the women and children and the older men were going to begin to settle that land. But the fighting men had to go on with the other Israelites and help them clear out the land and help them take it. That was the deal. You got the furthest east section of land, but you need to help the rest of the nation and help them get their land too. So Joshua held certain tribes to their obligations. They had an obligation to do this. Tribes that were given their own territory east of the Jordan were expected to help the other tribes get settled first. Sometimes, this is key, sometimes your victory will require you to help someone achieve theirs first. So you are taking your desire and you're submitting it to someone else's and helping them get theirs first. You know, one of the things that has always occurred to me is that sometimes people don't get their blessing, what the Lord has promised them. They don't get it because they are so angry and frustrated because others have gotten a blessing as well. I know that if I'll give you an example. Say you and your spouse want a house, okay? And you are believing the Lord for a house. And you're believing the Lord for a house. And you're sowing for a house. You're saving for a house. You're getting your current house ready. And then all of a sudden, one of your church members, or a friend, God somehow miraculously drops in their lap a house. Do you rejoice with them, or do you get angry and bitter about it? Well, why are they getting their house first? Why? I've been sowing, I've been praying, I've been doing all of this stuff, and I'm not getting a house. I haven't gotten my house yet. Why are they getting their house? Maybe you just need to celebrate with them. Maybe you need to throw them a housewarming party or something of that nature. You know, we used to have these, I remember when I first moved into my first apartment, very first apartment, my church did, I guess this is, I don't know of anybody else doing this, but they gave me a pounding, which, you know, sometimes people thought they really should. But it was basically a pound of sugar, a pound of butter, a pound of blah, blah, blah. And they stocked my kitchen for me. And that was awesome. So maybe you need to do that for them. Help stock their kitchen. Get everybody else in the church to say, hey, they got a new house. Let's help them fill up the kitchen with some food. Let's take meals to them for a week. Let's, you know, all that kind of stuff. Let's do some stuff. So all of this in these tribes was the very same thing that Moses would have required of them. So sometimes leadership succession is doing the exact same thing that would have been done had the original leader been there. Verse 16 through 18. Then they answered Joshua, "Whatever you have commanded us, we will do, and wherever you send us, we will go. Just as we fully obeyed Moses, so we will obey you. Only may the Lord your God be with you as he was with Moses. Whoever rebels against your word and does not obey it, whatever you may command them will be put to death. Only be strong and courageous." Did you notice that? They related the presence of God with Joshua being strong and courageous, and they were asking him to be strong and courageous. God asked that of him, and now the people are asking that of him. And so the people made sure that Joshua understood that they would be obedient. Their only requirement would be that Joshua would have to stay in the presence. The people wanted a strong and courageous leader, and they understood that those traits come from spending time in the presence of God. How often do we expect our leaders to do all of the work of the ministry without spending any time, except, we want them to do everything except spend time in the Word, to spend time in the presence. We seem to think that they should do all of the hospital visitations or all of the homebound visitations or all of the evangelism or all of the homeless ministry or all of the care of the widows, and that we expect them to do everything. But when the pastor says, "Hey, wait a minute, I need to take a day and spend in the Word of God, in the presence of the God," you're just lounging around. You're just kicking your feet up. You're just, taking a little relaxation day. No, spending time in the presence of the Lord is crucial. Absolutely, positively crucial. So you want to make sure your pastor is spending time with the Word and in the presence of the Lord. Not just studying for the next sermon, but spending time with the Lord and in His presence. You want to make sure that your church is not shortchanging yourself by expecting Him to do it all. So we're going to take a short break. We're going to be right back. Stay with us right here on Church Around the Corner. One of the most powerful things on earth is the power of a conversation. Think about all the things that have started with just a conversation: a company, a movement, a revival, a relationship. You can have your mind changed or change a mind. That's the power of a conversation. Now think about the conversations that never happened. What could have been? What did we miss out on? What conversations do you need to have? Well, we can help you figure that out with our new podcast production offerings here at CTN Middle Georgia. You don't need to have any special gear. Just come in, sit down, either solo or with guests, and press record. We have the space and the gear for your conversations to take place. We can record both audio and video podcasts. We can even help with full service podcasting, where we take care of everything for you. Email me at ripk@ctnonline.com and let's start a conversation. Hello and welcome back to Church Around the Corner. Glad you could stay with us. We've been talking about Joshua and how sometimes leaders all leaders have to spend time in the presence of the Lord. That's so critical, okay? But sometimes a successor is going to do the exact same thing that a leader did, and sometimes he's going to do stuff different. And so the first half of the program, we talked about the fact that he was going to do the exact same thing that Moses had done. Okay, the agreement that Moses made with the tribes that were going to exist on the east side of the Jordan, they had made the deal that they would get the east side of the Jordan, but their fighting men would have to go with the armies of Israel to get the other part of the promised land. So, and Joshua let them know, I'm going to hold you to that. Okay? So sometimes a leader will do the exact same thing that the former leader did. Okay? Sometimes they'll do it differently, and I'm going to talk about that now. So now Joshua has been doing that, but now he was going to change the playbook. Joshua 2:1. Then Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim. Go look over the land, he said, especially Jericho. So they went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. Okay, there's so much to unpack here, right? If you remember correctly, Moses sent 12 spies into the promised land. Remember, this was like 40 years before. Moses sent 12 spies. Joshua sent only 2. And I think I noticed something here. Now, when Moses did it, how many spies came back with a positive report? That's 2. 2 did. Joshua and Caleb. Okay? How many spies did Joshua send? 2. Are you getting the picture here? Sometimes it takes fewer people to accomplish a task. Okay? Moses also sent the spies publicly. The people themselves voted or selected members from the tribes, but Joshua didn't do that. He didn't hold an election for spies. He chose people. Moses did it publicly. Hey, we're going to send spies over there. Joshua said, hey, we're going. He just kind of went out and grabbed 2 guys, I guess, or whoever the Lord told him to, and said, hey, I want y'all to go in and spy out the land. Tell me what's going on. Because he still needed intel. Okay? Joshua had the strength and the courage to do things a different way from a beloved leader because of the presence of God. He knew that God would, sometimes we have to stay exactly on the line. You know what I mean? But we have to do exactly what we're supposed to do. Sometimes as leaders, we're allowed some leeway into doing things a different way. We may still have the same goal, kind of like you ever pull up a GPS, whatever GPS, and it gives you like 3 routes, and it tells you which one's the fastest, which is the most fuel efficient, and which one would just like take you 4 hours longer. It's very much like that. Sometimes on some things you have to toe the line. You have to do exactly what the Lord tells you to do. Sometimes he will say, yeah, do it the way you want to do it. I'll be with you. I'll go with you. And that's kind of what we see here. Joshua did something completely different than what Moses did. And it yielded some very special results. Okay? Now, who did they find? This is what gets me. Is that immediately, it says that it didn't say they went into the city of Jericho. It says they went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. Now, first off, how did they know she was a prostitute? How did they find her? Later in the scriptures, we find out her house was built into the wall of the city. And I would imagine she would have advertised some way or shape or form. Probably she let the spies down. Later on, she let the spies down through a scarlet cord. And I would imagine that would have been part of her advertisement. Okay? So this is where thinking differently gets you. You're thinking, you're not making a good point for it, right? You're not making a good point. So what happened was they go in, they tell her what's going on. She tells them, hey, we've been afraid of you. We have heard the story of you crossing the Red Sea. That was 40 years before. That's more than half my lifetime. but yet they were still afraid of that. They had heard of the battles that the Israelites had been in, and they were afraid. So their reputation preceded them. And so they're in this house of a prostitute. She was obviously the head of the household. She takes him up to the roof and hides him under some flax. Okay, so that and I'm thinking, one of the other things I noticed that the watchmen on the wall were probably asleep or not doing their job to not be able to see this, because her house was on the wall. So there's a certain number of people could have seen this. The army came, they had heard that these men had come in. So the army comes to her house. Have you seen these men? She said they came, they left, and they went out a certain way. If you hurry, you can catch them. So the little army tribe goes flying out the door, and then they were outside while the door was shut. So they wanted to pursue these guys so badly. So not only did the prostitute Rahab save the lives of these men of God, not only did she save everyone in her household, but she also is in the ancestry of Jesus. She is King David's great-great-grandmother. And David, of course, was in the lineage of Jesus. Now, this isn't an encouragement to visit prostitutes. Don't use this as an excuse to go find the house of a prostitute. But ministry is going to look different with a change of leadership, but only if there's strength, if that minister is being strong, and if they're being courageous. Sometimes they have to have the courage to do things differently. And, anytime somebody mentions they're having problems with their family, and I said, well, we all have family to deal with, right? I said, the only one who got to pick the lineage he would be in was Jesus. And if you go back and look, it's not that stellar of a bunch. Okay? There's adulterers, there's prostitutes, there's all sorts of just ne'er-do-wells. Murderers are in his family line. But he knew the line that he needed to be born into. And Rahab was grafted into that ancestral lineage. Isn't that cool? The only way we're going to be successful with the change in leadership is if we have strength and courage. The only ways to get those two things is to stay in the presence of the Father. We've had a time of change here at CTN as well. You might remember that the president and founder of CTN passed away at the beginning of 2022. And we've been on over a year now of transition and getting ready for all of that. What do we do? We've only ever known Bob DeAndre as our president and founder. And now he's our leader. And now he's no longer here. Well, his daughter, Yolanda Morris, is now the president. His son-in-law is vice president, and his son is now managing our headquarters down in Clearwater, and then also managing some family business interests. But it's been a time of transition, and it's been amazing when we meet with managers, when they've met with managers. They met with us in April of 2022, and every day of our 3-day meeting, we would start with praise and worship, pursuing the presence, and they would open the floor. Is the Lord telling anybody anything? So we have been pursuing the presence of the Lord as a daily part of our leadership, as the leadership of this network. They've wanted to pursue the presence, and that's a really, really cool thing. And we're seeing the benefits. They lead in a different style. They're having the courage to lead in a different style. And it's been quite amazing to see the change of focus without losing the main focus of getting souls saved, bringing the gospel to people, but changing the way we do that. changing the way we, Bob's big deal was get more and more stations. Well, that's an expensive thing. This new administration, the new leadership, they want to strengthen what we have, invest in what we have, and secure those facilities that we own, all that kind of stuff. And it's been amazing to watch. So it's a really, really good thing to see a change in leadership. And the key is to continue to pursue the presence. And if you're in a situation right now, maybe you've got a new pastor. I know of at least one church that's just, actually two churches that have just merged into one church. They got a brand new pastor, brand new church, brand new name, the whole works. I'm going to tell you what I would tell anybody. Make sure your pastor, your leader, is pursuing the presence of the Lord. There is no other way to have strength and courage to do what is necessary other than pursuing the presence of the Lord. And that looks like, to me, that looks like singing to God and not singing just about him. That looks like lifting him up. In praise and worship, sometimes we sing songs about him that aren't to him. And it's much more intimate. There's much more of a sense of his presence when I sing directly to him. That's just one example. When you read the word, make sure you understand he's there with you when you read the word. When you pray, he's there with you. So we want to make sure that we're pursuing the presence. Now, we want to make sure, too, that you always remember that we're here for you at CTN Middle Georgia. I want you to call our prayer request line if you've got a prayer request, 478-474-3986, or email WGNMprayer@ctnonline.com. Don't ever forget that we love you. We're excited about pursuing the presence of the Lord with you as we experience change in leadership, and I know you will too. That's all the time we've got. We'll see you next time on Church Around the Corner.